Hi team, welcome to your second data visualization assignment. So we're going to do an e-commerce sort of profitability analysis. Let's just kind of jump in. So in terms of what we'll be doing, so you're going to get a little bit or maybe a lot heavier in kind of the back end early on cleaning in Excel. So we're going to go through quite a bit of kind of the common I would say commands that I use that are pretty common, just setting data up. We may do a few very, very minor visualizations in Excel, but we'll spend a lot of our time in Tableau as we go through doing things like you can also create variables and use logic statements there. You can create what we call sets to help segment the data, and then finding ways to just make our dashboards clean, dynamic, effective, and apply a lot of the things that we've been kind of talking about in class thus far. In terms of due date, CR learning management system, by the time you see this video, the due date will actually be on there. Let's talk about the scenario. So again, I'm going to keep these as real world and what you would see kind of in the business world. Now, you would probably spend, I don't know, at least a full week or maybe a month with this data set, just grinding through it. We don't have that kind of luxury. So we're going to be maybe a little bit more targeted than what you would see. But we're going to work for a company called Midwest Commerce Solutions. It's going to be this growing regional office supply and furniture retailer serving customers across the central and eastern United States. The company operates both B2B, business to business, corporate, and business to consumer segments with rapidly expanding e-commerce platforms that serve customers from Ohio to Georgia, I should say, to California, to all across the country. The company ships nationwide using multiple different modes. You'll see this in the data, serves different segments, offering different types of discounts. And really what we want to do is we're going to look at a lot of different categories. So we have office supplies, furniture, and technology. Within those, we have subcategories that we can kind of break things down into. And so as we've kind of expanded, the chief financial officer has raised concerns about the company's profitability, right? While revenue has seemingly grown significantly, it appears that profit margins vary dramatically across a lot of those different categories, subcategories, segments, geographic reasons, shipping methods, discount levels. And they want to know more because right now it's just sort of in this deluge of data that we want specifics. And so your role in sort of the data analyst, management needs a comprehensive understanding of which aspects of the operation are most and least profitable to help guide strategic decision making for the upcoming fiscal year or years. Your analysis will begin with sort of this guided session along with me, right, an experienced analyst, where I'm going to have you do a tutorial where I want you to replicate everything that I do. And then you're going to use those skills to then build your own and really just be able to highlight yourself. So after that training exercise, you're going to kind of move into this independent consultant mode, right? I'm going to let you kind of work where you'll demonstrate your newly acquired skills by developing your own insights, drawing upon the things that we've been talking about in that tutorial, in the past lectures, in the past tutorials. You're going to create one unique exploratory dashboard and one explanatory dashboard that explore either average profit or average cost. I talk about that a little bit later as well. And it may not make sense to talk about cost intuitively, but it's a cost. So we can go through and think about how costs maybe are impacting profitability. So we're going to connect, or we can connect those pieces if you choose to do so. And a lot of this is going to give you the opportunity to build something unique, differentiate yourself from other people in the class. And I just want to see kind of how your brain's going to work. Your final deliverable will combine both the collaborative work from me, right, your training session, and your independent work into a comprehensive story. So that way I can kind of see everything relatively easy, and I can just show your growth from me to you as you go through. As with any professional development, mastering these requires really close attention to detail. So be very, very careful as you're going through. I don't have as much time to sit and think about that because I want to show you kind of the various pieces of the tool and how we'll kind of leverage them. This is already bugging me, those aren't aligned. So I'll talk a little bit more about those here in just a bit. Okay, so for required materials, hopefully everyone has gone through the technology requirements and gotten those kind of pieces. You have Excel, you have Tableau, and then all you need outside of the actual Tableau app will be this data set here. And it looks hideous early on, only because I have to find like a cohesive way for you to submit everything. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna follow along this tutorial, you're gonna do all this stuff in the data with me. And then you're going to save it to your Tableau public profile, and you're going to bring that URL and you're going to copy paste it here, save it, and then you're going to submit the completed Excel file. That way I can see if you did the back end work, and then I can also get to your profile as easy as possible. So be kind of prepared for that. The actual data that we're going to use is spread across these 3 sheets. So make sure you have that up. In terms of how you'll be evaluated and what I expect. So component 1, do all the things that I do, right? If you miss things, I'm going to take points off. That one should be easy because it's easy to follow along with the video. Component 2 is I'm going to push you, right? You're going to demonstrate your analytical skills by creating 2 distinct dashboards, not including the instructor dashboard. So in this case, you are likely going to have to create your own visuals, right? Because a lot of things that I'm going to build, I'm going to put in my dashboard. So you're going to have to go through, and I'm going to use a different measure. So you may just replicate mine and change the measure, but I recommend kind of exploring a little bit. When you're choosing what visuals to build and highlight, so I am going to use profit margin, a percentage measure. You, on the other hand, get one of 4 choices. Do not do them all. I want one of the 4. You can look at average profit per order or average profit per item. And why I say that is because how this data is set up is if I go up here to the top, note that you have the total revenue for the order, you have the total profit, and then you have the quantity. And so I have my order profit here, but if I wanted like broken down per item, I would need to take the profit and divide it by the quantity. And so I'll show you how to do that in the Excel pieces, but pick one or the other. It'll be up to you. If you're someone that really likes cost, to focus on those measures, again, cost per order or cost per item. And we're going to do average just because that's what we're kind of been focused on in those pieces. We have large enough data to where we're not super worried about outliers. In terms of kind of a checklist, what I would do is I would use this as obviously your checklist. So for your exploratory dashboard, I want at least 3 visuals and at least 2 filters. Again, it's meant to help me explore and discover patterns. We do this in consulting all the time where it's, hey, let the C-suite play around with the data if they want. It should have interactive elements for drilling into different dimensions, things like where they, having the visuals interact, and I'll show you that. Explanatory dashboard, much simpler, 1 or 2 visuals max. I'm going to say it with no filters. All right, no filters and limited interactivity. So I need to break your bad habit early on of like, ooh, I know all these bells and whistles and I'll use them on every visual. No, right? We want limited to no interactivity, and I don't want any filters. Your job will be to already have filtered it down to a point where you have this clear narrative structure, some focused message about what you see. In terms of quality control, again, I don't have time to go through this every single time with you. I'll try and be it. This is honestly the last thing I do is I build the dashboard. Then I go back and I spend maybe, 45 minutes to an hour going through this list. Make things so they're consistent formatting. Where we can provide a clear visual hierarchy. This will make more sense as we get later into the term. Avoiding typos is huge, making sure accurate data representation. My calculations are correct, make intuitive sense. Clear titles, consistent color schemes, appropriate chart types, all of those kind of things. And so being kind of cautious as we go through there and making sure, again, we don't give reasons for people to doubt our work. In terms of deliverable and assignment submission instructions, I already talked about it a little bit, but I'll do it again. Again, you're going to build a set of, you're going to clean the data in Excel and then build essentially 3 dashboards that you then put into a cohesive story. So to ensure you've gone through that, you'll submit the Excel file that includes the Tableau public. Your story should be professionally titled. A lot of students like to leave it as story 1. That's terrible, right? Make it as something that's representative, and I'll show you kind of how to do that. It should begin with the first story point. You'll see what that means here in a little bit as I jump in. That's going to be my visual, so it's consistent. Almost everyone should have the same thing. Then you're going to have 2 remaining story points, your exploratory dashboard, then your explanatory dashboard as you go through. All right, so it's set up. To earn credit, you'll again complete that Excel file, link to the Tableau public visual, and then submit it to the data visualization project 2 folder. If you have questions, you can always post on the Ask Your Instructor feedback feed. You can email me. If I think it's beneficial to the class, I may ask you to post there anyways. All right, so there's the overview. Let's jump into the data. So let's play around in this data a bit. A lot of this, we're going to just create variables and such and do a little bit of visualization. And so you can ignore this Tableau first sheet here. We're going to spend a lot of our time, maybe we'll go one by one. A couple just things, just organizing things early on. I like to go across, I'm going to mess with my kind of command bar so we can maybe see things better. Just make things more like visually appealing and to work with, because it helps make my life easier. So I'm going to click across these columns, drag, and then just go between double click so that it fits the widest. And then I like to always have a fill or something like that with my headers. And so I honestly start any kind of data that I'm working with. I like to use, honestly, U of A blue, or at least the navy blue here. That my brain just likes to see that. So usually across, anytime I'm working with data, I'm going to go and honestly do something like this and just bold across. You're going to see this one's going to get kind of ugly in this piece. And then I'm kind of just looking and exploring across different things, things that I'm kind of looking around. This sheet, there's not a terrible amount of stuff with me. Honestly, as soon as I see dates, my head starts to hurt thinking about using these in Excel. They're actually much, much easier to leverage in Tableau, but there are ways that we can do it. And so on this sheet, I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to maybe combine city and state. So if I want them together, I think that would be a little bit easier. And then I'm going to get the month and the year from, I'll probably use the order date. I don't care as much about the shipping date unless I saw some time. Actually, we'll create that variable too. So let's go in. I'm going to insert 3 columns here. Right click, insert, and I'll put something like days from order to ship. And most of the time, Excel knows how to use and treat these dates. And you can see up here in the command bar that it sees as a date. It's actually numbers. So you can do something like simple math. I could just do equals ship date minus order date. And then it treats it as a date, which is very, very odd. But I'm just going to change it to number. And then I'll round it to 0 decimals. So essentially 3 days from when it was ordered to when it was shipped. And I'll double click down. So that may be like an interesting variable if I was going kind of deep into things to look at it. So I figure I might as well create it. And then I'm going to do order month and then order year, just so I kind of split it a little bit. Now, I could use another way to do this. I could use text to columns on this. But I want to show you as many kind of tips and tricks that you can kind of leverage throughout here. And so again, because it's in a date, it's actually not that hard to get this information. And so you can be kind of creative with this. If you just wanted the month, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, it's as easy as equals, and you type the word month, open parenthesis, and then click on the date. And it knows in that format that it will spit it out this. Now, again, it treats it as a date, so you would have to go in I would do it as a number, something like that. But generally months, I like the actual name of the month. And so to do that, it's a little bit trickier, but then it's going to be a command called text. Um, and so if we look at this, it converts a value to a specific text in a specific number format, and it knows how to leverage dates. And so I'm going to do text, I'm going to click here, then I'm going to do comma, and then how I want it formatted is to spit back the full month name. So in quotes, I would type M, 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 M. All right, if I do less, it's shorthand, but I'll do that. Then it gives me November. All right, for order year, this one's easy, right? It's just equals, we type year and go like this with the order date, this. Um, Again, it's treating it very, very odd. We'll do number, and then I'll round this to 2 decimals. Then we have what we want, right? We go across, double click on both down, then it has the months. And so now we can kind of work with that order, which is really, really nice. The only thing else I'll do on this sheet is I'll make a new variable that's city, comma, state, just because then I don't have to build the hierarchy in Tableau. So I'll build it right here. I'll do insert, and then I'll just title this city, comma, state, and then it's just equals. We're going to put things together. So that command is concat, right? And so it used to be concatenate. It says that command's going away, but it hasn't. But I'm going to still use concat, and I'll just use my text1, comma, and then I really want it city, comma, space, state. And so I have to be very, very literal here. And so now I'm going to actually do in quotes, because again, it is a non-numeric factor. I'll do a comma and then a space, and then I'll close my parentheses. So now it's going to combine Henderson, and then the comma and the space, and then I do comma. My text3 would be the state. All right, and I close that parenthesis, I hit enter, then you see it's at Henderson, comma, Kentucky, which is really, really nice. And then we double click that down. And then as we're going along, we're always going to save often. Control S, Command S, file save, the little floppy disk type icon at the top, just like Tableau. So I think we're okay on this sheet. So I'll go to the numeric order information sheet. And we're going to create a lot of different things here. Just because there's a lot, I mean, there's already interesting factors. I have the revenue, I have the profit, I have the quantity, I have the discount, but right now discount has got words in it. And so I'm going to go through here and just create a bunch of variables that I could look at that I think would be interesting. So first thing I'll do is I'm just going to format things the way that I like to see them. So revenue and profit. So I'm going to hold Control, Command on a Mac, select them both, and just say, please show those to me as a currency. Just so again, I have the dollar sign. If you're an accounting person, you can put it as accounting as well. And then I talked about this earlier in the overview. So this is going to be, and I'm going to rename this order profit. But then I want also item profit. And so that's just equals, I'll take the order profit divided by the quantity. And now for this first one, right, like obviously it's the exact same because I only have one. I would probably do the same thing where I'm going to right click and insert. I'm going to make this item revenue. And this is going to be order revenue, just because I want to keep things together. And I'll do that kind of exact same thing where it's equals order revenue divided by quantity. And then I can double click it down, but then I can break it down by the item. Same thing, I would really like to see something like cost. And again, so maybe I'll do something like order cost. Well, cost is an easy way to figure out. Well, if I know the revenue is 170 and I made 32.49 on that, well, that means I have to know the cost, right? The cost is just simply the revenue minus the profit. It's simple, basic accounting, right? And so if I had the cost and the profit, I add them together, I would get the total revenue for it. Now I would go down, do something like this. I could also get, again, item cost, where I just do equals. I have the order cost divided by the quantity. Hit enter, go ahead, double click it down. So I get lots of cool, interesting factors that I can go through and leverage. Another interesting variable that you could kind of parse out is the price, right? And so if I have the price here, the price is just simply the revenue divided by the quantity, because that's the only way I get that revenue as we go through. And it's technically, I guess, item revenue and item price think is going to be the exact same thing if I think about that correctly. 3.65, yeah. And so I actually kind of, I'm just going to rename this instead price, and then I don't actually need this variable here. And then let's see, the last thing I'm going to actually go through and calculate or estimate is going to be the profit margin. So a lot of times people are going to look at the margin, the percent markup, rather than the absolute value, because then it makes it more comparable for maybe like small products and big products. And so I'll do profit margin as a percent, and we'll have to be kind of careful here, making sure we kind of set it up so a way that makes the most sense. All right, so for the non-business people, profit margin in its simplest definition is revenue minus expenses divided by 100, i.e. just profit divided by the revenue, which we have on the, I'm going to do on the order. So maybe I'll do, let's see, I'll do order profit margin. I wish I use my spacing. And then maybe I'll do insert item profit margin, which when I sit here and think about it, these may end up being the same. But let's check. So order profit margin is legitimately just the order profit divided by the order revenue. And if I hit enter, it's going to treat it as a currency. That is not correct. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change it to a number just because I want to show you. All right. If I wanted to, I could multiply this by 100, and then it would get it as 19%. Right? But I know in Excel and Tableau, when you display a percent, as a percent, it's expecting it between 0 and 1. Or, I mean, technically go over that. But what we can do is, right, we'll just click this percent button, and it automatically turns to a percent, even though the underlying number is still 0.19. And then I'm going to go ahead, double click that down, and I can kind of see those pieces. In terms of item profit margin, again, let's see if this is going to be the same. So it's just going to be the item profit divided by the price, because that's technically the item revenue, and it should be the same for that one. Yeah, it's going to be exactly the same, simply because of just the measure that we have. And so I'm just going to go ahead and delete it. And I'll do this as profit margin. Okay, so we've created lots of interesting variables that we can now explore and look at. I want to make sure there's one other one that I want to kind of modify. And I'll show you this in Tableau, maybe how to categorize it. I want this to be numeric, right? Because this is just being treated as a whole number. And I'll show you why. So if I use this number and said it was a percent, it's going to say it's 2,000, which again, it's meant to be 20%. So we're going to just basically modify this where it makes a little bit more percent, makes more sense. So I'm gonna put like cat next to that so it's categorical, and then I'll use discount percent here, and I'm gonna use an if command. So I need to basically say if this equals a word, give me back 0, because the word that I see is none. And so I'll do equals if. And then I'm just going to click on this cell, and then I do equals, and then in quotes, because it is a word, I'm going to do none. And I'll do comma. If that's true, what do I want back? Well, I want 0 back, because that means I gave 0% discount. If that's not true, I really just want the cell back. And usually I could click this, and it looks like I still can. My command's kind of overlapping it, so I'll click this, and I'll close this. And basically it's saying if it sees the word none, it's going to be back 0. If it sees anything else, it's going to give me back itself. So I'll hit enter. Hopefully I see 0. I double click it down, and then I see 0. But now I have the same problem in terms of if I want it formatted. And I certainly don't want this one to be between 0 and 1 and this one to be between 0 and 100. So I can actually go in and just modify that command and just say, hey, actually give me back that cell divided by 100. Nothing changes here because 0 divided by 100 is 0, but then you go through and then you have this piece. Then I can format it as a percent. Note that if it does round, you can change the rounding this way. These were round numbers, so it's always going to be that way, but we can kind of display it how we want on those kind of pieces. Okay, so we've kind of cleaned things up. I think this one is kind of everything that I want done with this right now. Let's go to the categorical info sheet here. So, okay. One other thing before we build just some quick visuals in Excel would be I would really like to look at category and subcategory potentially separately. Right now, that's not going to be a possibility because, well, look at it, right? They're all in just one column. But as you look down and through the data, you should see it looks like category is then listed, and then we have this underscore. Right? And that's consistent across all these, which makes our life a little bit easier. So what I'm actually going to do is I can split this column into two using that sort of underscore as a parameter here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here, and then it's on the data tab up top, and then you should see text to columns, right? If your screen is condensed, it may look a little bit different, but I promise it's going to be there. So you'll do text to columns, and then it's not a fixed width. If it was, you could just say the sixth spot is where we'll split it, but this is split on characters, so I'll do next. And then it has all these options. So commonly you'll see tabs, semicolons, commas, spaces. Ours, we do not want space because this is space, but it doesn't split it on that. But you should see this unique underbox and then the underscore. So it's shift underscore. So this is up there generally next to 0 on your keyboard, just to the right. If you can't find it, you can honestly go in and copy that piece. Right? This is going to make our life a little bit harder because you can notice that category and subcategory in the title, and you can see it in the preview here, it's split by a comma. So we may have to do a little bit of work. You could technically hit finish. The problem is if you do that, it's going to overwrite the product name and we're going to lose it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be strategic. The default is leave the left one in the column and then it moves everything else to the right unless you tell it otherwise. So I'm going to do next. You can see you can actually split this doing dates. That's kind of what I talked about a little bit earlier, that you could use this option. But it is general. I don't really care about modifying to say it's text. But then my destination, I'm going to move this. I'm going to put the destination here on E. Right now, hit enter. All right, so it's in E1. I'm going to do finish. Then, as you kind of split across, you see category, subcategory. I would go in. I would cut this. I would then paste it here. That way I then have everything split. And then if I did this, I don't need this column anymore. I could, for some reason, get back to this, I guess, but I'm going to try and keep my life a little bit easier. Okay, so that's a lot of early on cleaning data in Excel, and I promise it gets messier. You'll see it. It's not nearly as much fun. But I want to visualize things. I want to talk about kind of linking variables across sheets. And the issue that we have right now is that I have these unique order IDs, and they're in different orders. So I can't just copy and paste columns over and then match. And now you could say, well, Gray, like you could go across here and you could do sort the data, do by unique order ID, so then it's 1, and then if you do the same thing over here, you could do sort, unique order ID, and do that, and then copy paste. But then you better be 100% sure that you're not missing any numbers here, right? Otherwise, wherever that happens, everything gets mixed up and it's wrong, and you look like a fool, or you spend a ton of time doing stuff that you shouldn't have done, right? You have a lot of time that you've wasted. And so I like to let Excel do the work. And so I'm going to build a couple tables off of this sheet where I split things via category. Well, right now I need the category. I'm going to bring category and subcategory over. So I'm not going to copy the values. I'm just going to go over here. I'm going to paste it. And then I'm going to use, and I'm going to really hope that you have the most common feature, it's equals X lookup. If you don't, I'm going to show a workaround to that and why I like X lookup. But hopefully most of you all, if you start typing equals X and L, so the letters, you should see X lookup. If you don't see it, I would honestly, it means you probably don't have the most recent version of Excel, and you should download it. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to double click. And it says, okay, what do you want to look up? Well, I want to look up this unique order ID, comma. Well, where is it? Well, it's on the categorical info sheet in column A. So I'm going to click on column A. Then I'm going to hit comma. It's like, well, what do you want back? Well, I want the category that matches that up. And then you'll see here, anything in brackets is optional. If I can give things more information, I will. So I'll go in here, I'll do comma, and then it's saying, if not found, what do you want back? I like in quotes N/A, but you could type anything that you wanted. Comma, match mode, I'd like to say, yes, please do an exact match. I think this is the default. So I type the number 0 and then comma. It tells me which way to search. So do you want first to last, last to first? Binary search, yes, no. For me, like I don't care which way it searches. So this one, I'm actually going to delete that comma and just close the parenthesis. I'm going to say a short prayer. I'm going to hit enter, and I hope this works. All right, so let's do it one more time together. So equals X lookup. All right, I want this unique order ID, comma, it is somewhere in column A, comma, if you find it, now bring back subcategory, comma, if it's not found, in quotes, N/A, comma, match, please do an exact match. Close the parenthesis. And we can see furniture bookcases, it works. And so then I'll hover across, double click down. You can do like a quick check, furniture, chairs, office supplies. Now I know all these do match, which is nice. But again, if they didn't, it finds it for me without me having to worry if there were not any matches. And I can always check, right? I can go up, throw a filter on, and I'll do this. Do I see any NAs? No. Do I see any NAs here? No, that means they all matched perfectly, which is great. All right, for now, I'm going to leave these commands in the background. Really, I would go back and honestly copy and paste the values just because it can cause issues that we go through. But now I'm going to go ahead and maybe build some visuals here. Let's start with a pivot table because then I can get my data kind of organized. So click anywhere in the data. I'm going to do insert, pivot table, which is far left up here. All right, so I'll do that. It should highlight my data. I'm going to put it on a new worksheet and do OK. And again, you may have to resize a little bit because sometimes on small screens, I see these are really condensed, which is hard to kind of move around. But what I'm going to look at is how do we want to do this? Generally, I don't want a terrible amount of categories. So I'm going to do category down to rows, so each category. And then what do I want to see? Let's do, you all are going to look at order profit. So I'm going to look at order profit here. And right now, I already see some issues. So it's treating order profit as a count, which means it thinks that it's text. And so I'm going to have to go in. Let's see if this thing works. I'll do the drop down, value field settings. I'm going to change it to an average. I'm going to do OK. If you're on a Mac, you just press the I button and you should get to this, and we'll do OK. Then it treats it the way that I want to, which may be an issue later on, but we'll kind of see. So then I want this to look nice. I know this is a currency, so I want to label it just so it looks nice. And then what do I want to do? You know what? I'm going to create one more variable. Let me think. I would really want like the total discount given, which would be interesting. We could leave that for another day. I want to jump into Tableau. So I'm going to do order profit, and let's also look at order cost as maybe a comparison. So I'll bring that down. I don't know why this thing doesn't, oh, because it's treating it as a count again. So we'll do value field settings or just the I button. You'll do average, do something like that. So it doesn't like this. So let's go see what's going on with order cost. So I'll go into general, or I'll go back to numeric. All right, so if I go into order cost, interesting, I'm not sure what's going on. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to make sure it is a currency. That's how it's displaying. So it may not like that the math is in the back here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this. And then I'm going to paste the values on top of it. So to do that, you could right click, make sure again it is copied, and do the 1, 2, 3. If you're a Mac, it may be under paste special. You can also go up here and find paste values. Again, if you're on a Mac, it may be paste special. Make sure again it's copied. So I'm going to paste that. It looks like nothing happens, but then when you click on it, look, all the numbers are in the back instead of that formula. So let me go back to my pivot table. And I'm going to take that out. Oops. I'm going to bring order cost back over here. So it may not know because it hasn't refreshed on the data. So this is an interesting thing. I'm going to go to pivot table analyze here at the top. I'm going to do refresh. And here, value field settings, average, do okay. I'm not sure why it doesn't like that. Let's try, I'm going to go back here now that I've done the order cost. I'm going to just try again. So insert pivot table. I will do okay. Then I will have my category here, and then I will do find order cost down to values. Still wants to count it. What are you doing here? Value field settings. I'll do average, do okay. I'm going to show a trick here. Oh, interesting. It has some unknowns. Well, let's go back, kind of figure things out here. So what I'm going to do is I'll do data, I'll do filter. Let's figure out what's going on with order cost. So I'm going to uncheck all of these. Whoops. And now I wish I wouldn't have messed up with that formula. So let's do our values. We'll do okay. So it looks like, all right, I have 4 things that don't have numerical values with them. Interesting. So what I'll probably then do is I will go into this new sheet. I will do this and title it a notes sheet. I'll go into the numeric order information. I'm glad we're kind of seeing this. If it's unknown, there's nothing I can do with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag, I'm going to right click, I'm then going to delete. Right, then I'll go up, select all, we'll do okay. Again, my computer's now moving a little bit slow, it didn't like that, do okay. Now let's go back here. Right, I'm actually going to go to sheet 1, and then if I do pivot table analyze, let's refresh the data. There it is right there. Okay, so I'm going to delete these 2 sheets. I didn't want to show you that pivot table trick until later in the term, but it is now. So my note sheet had to remove 4 data points because of unknown revenue. And so that's just to help me later on. So I may move that here. I'm going to move this over, and then I'm going to do best practice. I will rename this pivot table plus chart. And then I would like to kind of visualize these next to one another. And so once you have things, and I have units that I should probably have revenue and price. So the reason that I look, actually, let's visualize it just because I can show best practice. So I can do pivot table analyze. and I'll go in, and there should be, let's see here, pivot chart. If your buttons and stuff go away, note that those are here. If you don't like the row labels, you can click on field headers. But notice, like, if you click off, sometimes it doesn't pop back up, so you have to go into pivot table analyze and click that. But we're going to do pivot charts, and it starts with these together, and so I would do a clustered chart. Please do not go with the 3Ds. We've talked about that, or we will talk about it. You could try and do a stacked, so it kind of shows profit and cost. I would probably do, if I were doing this, I would probably do like profit and revenue instead of those kind of pieces. So I'm just going to do a clustered one. I'll do okay. And then with Excel, the visuals are just ugly. We're going to spend time kind of cleaning these. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so it's easier to kind of see. So I'm going to hold shift and drag on the right corner so I keep the aspect ratio. And then I'm going to just spend 5 minutes kind of cleaning this up. First, I'm going to get rid of these grid lines. If you're on a PC, you're going to see this plus button. On Macs, what you're going to have to do is, I want a title on this thing. You're also not going to see these gray buttons. That's perfectly fine. It's not a big deal. I'm sure there's a way to get rid of them. Let me see if I turn off that. So I don't want these if I were to put them in. So I'll just get rid of them in that piece. So I'll go here, and then I'll do, again, PC people, you can click here. For Mac people, you've got to go here, and then it's, I believe, under design, you'll do add chart element. Let's go ahead and do a chart title. And we're going to do above, let's give it its own space. And it's just something simple like Control A. So I would do average, let's see, profit, and I'll say profit versus cost per order. And I think it makes more sense to have profit or cost first and then profit next to it. And so you can change the ordering by just clicking and dragging here. And then generally with bar graphs, I want it always to go biggest to smallest. So I would probably put technology, then furniture, then office supplies, so that my far left graph is there. And it's a little bit tricky. You got to be kind of careful in here. Go in between, and then you can drag up, I think. Let's go in here. Yeah, I'll go up in this way. And if you want to set it up to kind of be something of that number. Then if you want to actually label it, because it's hard for me to kind of just see it, again, click here, PC people go here, Mac people, design, chart element. Let's do data labels. Since it's kind of hard to read there, I'm going to do outside in. This is kind of, we're getting a little bit kind of distracting there. So I would probably do something like this. Then you don't need this axis. And so you can just delete. And then you have something like very, very clean and nice, or nice-ish as we go through. I think that's enough Excel work because, again, I want to spend time visualizing and a lot of time in Tableau. So go ahead and save this. And we're then, make sure you know where you're saving it. Again, I highly recommend folders and subfolders, but save it to where it's somewhere easy to find. And then we're going to read this into Tableau. So you made it to the Tableau piece. Let's just kind of jump in, and we're really going to kind of play around a bit in the program. And some of you all may have already seen this data. It has been updated from if you took my stats class, and I'm going to show you a few different things. But if you haven't seen it before, you're not at any kind of disadvantage in that piece, because I'll show you everything that I need to show you. Let's go and find our completed data set. We know it's an Excel file, so you can select Microsoft Excel. You can always do File, Open. This would work if you wanted to open a Tableau file, and then you're just going to go find where it's at. All right, so I have mine here. I'll go ahead. Again, make sure you have saved your Excel file before you jump into here, so it has all that cleaned information that we want. And then if you see this option here on the left for Use Data Interpreter, we always want to select it. And if you haven't heard it before, Tableau likes to think, let it think. It can do some cleaning. In this sense, I don't know that it does a ton, but we're not going to kind of worry about that as we kind of get jumped in. So I'm going to pull in really the information that I need. So we had that notes tab. We made a pivot table, that Tableau submission that you're going to use. Those don't need to be brought in. I just want the data that we have. So I'm going to bring over categorical info. It's going to think. Usually gives me a little bit of a preview down here that I can look at. This looks nice. I'm then going to bring over I think it was, let's do general information. We can check and drag it so it should try and automatically link, which it did. If it didn't, just select unique order ID down here in both cases. We have our different pieces, fantastic. Then we're gonna do, looks like a numeric order information, bring it, drop it. And we've got everything, it all links. You can see a nice thing about our discount now that it was very, very clean. And it helps that we moved it away from categorical in that sense. We can, if we want this to be treated as categorical, we can go in, should be able to edit it here where it's actually not a number. We can make it a string variable, I believe is what we want. Then it's going to treat this thing as categorical if we wanted it that way and before. And we could do more stuff in here, but let's just kind of jump in. So I'm going to go down here to the left and create my sheet 1. You should see all of your variables along the left-hand side here broken down by the sheet that they came from in Excel. Your best friend may end up being this search bar, especially as you get kind of comfortable working with a particular variable as you kind of go through. So for me, I generally try and identify like what's my most important variable that I'm going to be using the most. For you all, you get to choose one of 4. You're going to be able to look at the average cost, average profit, order. I'm going to be looking at profit margin for my dashboard. So I go ahead and format this so that when I bring it over every single time, I don't have to do it over and over and over. And I recommend you kind of doing the same. So I'm going to select this drop down. I'm going to do default properties. I'm going to do number format first, and then I'm just going to remind it, hey, it's a percentage. For now, I'll go ahead and have it round to 2 decimals. If I want to change that later, I may come back. Then I'm going to make sure when I drag it over, it's also an average every single time so that I can address for like different counts and things of that nature. And so I'm going to do, again, default properties, in this term aggregation, and I'm going to make it average. So now every time I bring it out, it's going to be formatted the way that I want, and it's going to look relatively nice. So I'm going to create probably 4 or 5 visuals with you. I probably won't put them all on my dashboard, and then I'll kind of leave them for you. The first thing I'm going to do is I really just want to look at the average profit, and I think what I'm going to focus on, I'm going to choose a categorical thing, like maybe category, because I think that's going to be relatively, I don't know, the easiest one to use. You'll notice it has kind of a special label there because it's on 2 different sheets. It shouldn't matter. I'm going to use this one here just because I won't have to like modify what this looks like as we do kind of the polishing piece. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to find my profit margin. I'm going to click, I'm going to drag it over. It always starts as a bar graph. You could just highlight this if you really wanted. Early on, what I'm going to try and build is just going to be kind of, I'm going to call this an overview, something like that, where I actually just display it. And I could just start by showing the average profit margin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the show me feature, and I'm going to turn it into a table here. And so I can see my average profit margin is 11.91%. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Later on when I'm on a dashboard, I may be able to make it a little bit nicer. But I'm going to hold, so if you're on a Mac, I believe it's Command. For a PC, it's Control, and then just the letter B. So that, oddly enough, makes it smaller. So I'm going to hold Shift with Control or Command and hold B. And that makes it bigger, that where you can kind of not automatically size it, but you kind of play around and you can kind of modify it so it's a little bit bigger. Right now it's just expanding because this is just text. You could modify it this way. I wouldn't do that just because it's going to make this thing kind of huge. What I'm going to do is I'm going to right click in this and then do format. And then I'm on this text thing here. There's lots of clicking and things like that, right clicking in Tableau. So I'm going to start off, let's just change this to 20 and then just see what that looks like. I think that looks a little bit better. I don't know why it's always right justified. So we'll actually go into the alignment tab as well. And within the pane, I'm going to say, let's make it in the middle and do this. It automatically defaults to whatever your sheet title is. So I'm going to go up in here and I'm just going to change the title to be something like average. And I'm going to be careful not to making typos here. Profit margin, and I'm going to do apply, and I'm going to do OK. And I like that kind of piece. It would be nice to maybe see this broken down by category as we kind of go across. I think that's what I'll do. Let me find category again. I'll bring that out and I'll look. Sometimes I just have to play around with this. Yeah, I kind of think this looks really nice. I don't really want this on here because I can use that as a title. So I'm going to right click, hide the field labels. If I wanted this to be bigger, so it's all on one line, you can actually manually click and kind of drag these to where we kind of think they fit. And now I just have some very basic information. And so once I'm getting started, we're going to save, and we're going to save often here because it does kind of crash sometimes. And sometimes in the video, you'll see it'll go slower. So I'm going to already go ahead and just do file, save as, and then please do it as something descriptive. So I'm going to go in and I'm just going to title it what our program is. So I'll do something like, honestly, I'm just going to do the title, e-commerce profitability analysis. I'm going to save it. That way, later on when we save, it makes life look a little bit easier, a little bit cleaner. And so honestly, I think that's a nice visual just to see that piece because I can see kind of technology, furniture, office supplies, and text looks really nice. And we don't want to clutter things up early on. So let's create a new visual. So we're going to create a new sheet here. So down here on the bottom left, I'll click on this. Again, I know profit margin is what I want to focus on. So you'll get to the point where honestly you can start just double clicking. I don't recommend that when you're learning, but you can go through. I'm going to build a map. You all have seen this before, but it is really, really nice. I'm going to look by city or by state. And then within each state, I want to hover over it and see, man, it would be good to see my clients via the state, but maybe I'll just stick with that kind of common thing of category. So I'll take state, I will bring it over here. It has it, I can already see, Illinois is a big time problem. But let's start off, let's click on the show me, and we'll do this second map. Filled map is more for maybe more granular kind of pieces. So I'll click on that. I'll go through. The default color scale is kind of this red to blue. And honestly, I think this looks really nice. A lot of people get in trouble here where they start to use color for something and then hover over it and they see something different. They try and put too much information on there. So I'm not going to do that. I do think it would be interesting to see when it will actually show me the profit margin on the map. So I can actually put that on this label button. So I'm going to find, again, profit margin, bring it onto label right here. Then we can see it. Most of the states, the Northeast is always going to be problematic. Then a couple things with these maps. Luckily, we don't have Alaska or anything like that. I may show you a map later on where we build in Alaska and we keep it in. But I don't really care about Mexico. I don't really care about United States here. And if you have a mouse and you start scrolling, you don't want to let people do that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of lock the map. So first I'm going to pin it so I can see everything the way that I want. And I'm going to go up to this map option up here on the left. So conveniently, you've got different things like if you're on a worksheet, specific stuff. If you're working on a map, it's got specific things as well. And so I'm going to do, I think I'll start with map options. And this is where I'm going to uncheck allow pan and zoom. And if you didn't want to show this kind of search bar and this layer control, you could also go ahead and kind of get rid of that, the view toolbar, just so it's not, I don't know, cluttered. All right. And so I I then would want to get rid of Mexico and the United States. That's a different place. So that's the background options or background layers. So I'll do the layers, and across the left, I can do this washout, right? And it gets rid of everything that either doesn't have data in it. And that only works for field maps. Then over on the left, you should see this region borders or country region names. I'm just going to uncheck that, and then the United States will go away. I don't think you need to label the actual name on these because people can go and just hover over and see them. All right, so I'm going to right click and rename this. I'll say field map PM for profit margin, just so I kind of have it. And then I'm going to go ahead and careful if you click save here because it wants the default to set to Tableau public. I would just go in and do file save, so it's saving it kind of local in that piece. I'm going to change it up. Instead of doing by category, because I'm actually going to add a category filter to this so we can change it. So let's do that first. Lots of ways to do this. The long way that I used to know, that I learned, I'm going to click on this, and it's a little bit more deliberate, so I do actually like it. So I'm going to drop it over, and then I'm just going to select all so that I have the filter. You do apply, you do okay, and it looks like nothing happened. You're like, that's kind of weird. But what we're going to do is you have to do the drop down, and then you're going to do show filter. Then it's going to pop up over here, and to be completely honest, it's going to be ugly. And I'm not going to mess with it yet. I also think this right here is ugly, so I'm actually going to go ahead and then just, I'm going to format this legend. Let's see if it's going to work. No, that's not what I want. I want to edit the colors. I want to edit the title, duh. And I'm just going to put something, just rename this, maybe AVG, all right, average profit margin. And then we don't need the percent just because it's repetitive. So I'm going to do okay. Then it just looks a little bit cleaner as we kind of go through there. Then what I want to do is I kind of want to hover over these and see each of the cities because I have that kind of granular data. You could do zip code as well. Let's see. Let's build that table. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to click and create a new sheet. So I'm going to try and think about how I want this. And again, I'm not going to have this be alone. I'm going to pull over my profit margin. Then I'm going to pull over. I really want zip code or postal code first. And then within that postal code, I want the, I don't really care about the states. I'm going to do the city, and this is going to get a little bit ugly early on, which is fine. We're then going to do show me, and I'm going to present it as a table, so maybe it's a little bit cleaner. And then I'm going to go largest to smallest. I don't know why it's not going to label this right here. I would really like it. I'm going to hold Control and click and drag this onto text and see what happens. It's already in there. Let's do right click. I'm going to try format. That's not going to work. We are going to do right click. Let's do ascending. So it's kind of biggest to smallest here. Interesting that it's doing it here. Let's do this. I'm going to hold Control and bring this back up here and just see what happens. And then again, turn this into a table. So again, a lot of this you have to kind of play around. It doesn't want to do that. It wants to do ascending here, but I want the average profit margin here. What if I drag it here as well? And then I turn it to a table. It still wants to be mean to me. Let me think about how I want to do this. So right click, I want it to be ascending, but it's doing it by postal code. Okay, so the issue I think must be that we have too many things here. So I'm going to do is I'm going to pull off postal code. Then I'll go here, right click. I will do sort ascending. Let's see if I can add postal code back in here and kind of cheat it's my way to where I want it. Bring that in. Okay, it looks like that works. And again, I don't care what this one looks like. So I may, again, rename it something like city PM sheet, something like that. Because really what I want it to do is I want it to be in here. So I'm going to click on what we call the tooltip. So that's what shows up when we hover here. So I'm going to do tooltip. And then I'm going to go under, I'm going to hit enter. Then I'm going to do insert, and I need to find sheets. And now I have that city PM sheet. I'm going to do okay. And early on, honestly, I'm just going to wait and see. So I'm going to hover. Now when you hover over, you can kind of see these are sort of descending, which I think is still fine. Some will say it's too large to show just because the 300 by 300 we don't have set up large enough. So if you wanted to modify the size, let's go bigger. And I will do max height. Well, let's do something like 600. I do okay. Maybe you hover over and I can see most of that kind of piece, which is really nice. So now we can see the city, the postal code, and then the profit margin with them. It would be interesting to keep the same color scale on these. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go here. I'm going to get profit margin. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag that to color. You should see that. And then the nice thing is when you go over, this should also include that kind of piece where it's consistent with what we have. I may go back into here. It is showing that because that was hovered over, I believe. Yep, so my thing's starting to slow down, so I may need to save highlight. But I'm going to, do I want to worry about trying to sort this thing the other way? Let's do this and see what happens. Doesn't seem like it wants to, because it wants to go into postal code, which is not really what I want. So I'm going to undo that. I don't really want to clear the sort, so we go there. I think that's okay. Okay, spent a little time. Sorry, it's bugging me. So I've come back. A way that we can kind of force it is we can bring this what we call measure name. So it's like a generic thing that we built. And then it's going to start off, there's no measure name here because it's not a measure, it's technically a dimension. But we can actually click on this, right click and do edit alias. And then we can just edit the alias to be profit margin. And then we'll do okay. And then we should be able to click and then hopefully modify the order. It still doesn't want to do it there. That's just unbelievably frustrating. So what I'll do is somehow lost my color. So I'll bring this back to color here. Right, and then again, I have that. If I do it by city, which is not really what I want, do a source order. I really want to go here. You can tell I let things bug me probably too much, but I don't want this sorting anymore. I do nested, average profit margin. There we go. And now it's highest to lowest. So if I go back into the map, I should see, and then I kind of see all those. And I'm not going to worry that that is too large. I will worry about, you can see that it's cut off. So I'm going to go back in here, and then I got to kind of modify a little bit. I'm just going to drag this out so we can kind of see it a little bit better. Again, if you're someone that likes to keep things kind of consistent, we may want to hover across. Maybe I'll start here. I'll do right click, format. I like, again, my alignment to be as consistent as possible. This thing is cut off, so I'm going to go, again, I've got to be very, very careful. Drag across. I wish there was the double fit option, but it's not, or a double click option, but it's not in there yet. Since I've already clicked on it, I should be able to right click again, format. Hello. Right click, format. And then now, because it's categorical, what we'll have to do is we'll find the corner alignment, go across, then I'll go, I'm going to undo because I don't want my titles to kind of move like that. Let's see if I can go into here. Here, there, I'll format this piece. That'll make life a little easier. Then we can go here. just move them across, and it does it for both of them. I really wish it would just do, I think where my brain's at. I think that's okay. As long as it's kind of consistent. I really wish the city were left aligned, but here we can always format. I think it just goes back to kind of our piece. So the header, maybe we'll do our, no. I think it's fine. I'm not going to go spend too much time. That could be other things I could do. So I can go across, I'm going to hover. Come on, hover. My computer's going a little slow. And if yours kind of slows down, so now I think it may be a little bit too wide, so I've clicked on it. Come on, I'm going to hit escape. Escape's going to be kind of our best friend. I'm going to hover. I just need to make it a little bit wider, it looks like. So again, I'll go into tooltip, and I will do maybe a 500 height and do okay. So hover, and just to check. Maybe check, I don't know. See there, okay. So it looks a little bit nicer. And again, some are just going to be super tall where they'll have to go in because Texas is huge. So I'm going to save. I'm actually going to reset. So close this and pick up with the next visual to speed things up for you all. All right, so if you need to take a break, hopefully things sped up, you did a reset, let's go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna now go ahead and build a line graph. So I do have date data, and I'm gonna use the order date just because I think it's interesting. So I'm gonna bring that up, and I probably should have brought profit margin up as well. So I'll do profit margin. Where are you? Profit margin, I'll go here. And because I looked at category over here, I might as well be consistent. So I'll rename this line graph, line PM by category. And so I'll find my category variable again, and I want a line for each of these categories. So I'll do the color, and I can kind of see these pieces. And if you want to have it by year, that's great. If not, you want to kind of maybe expand a little bit. You can do this. I think we have to then be careful of how we look at it. So you do it by year over the quarter. You could also do it by quarter each year. It's kind of up to you. I don't know that there's really a best practice as you kind of see through these different ones. What we'll do is, first, let's clean it up a little bit. So number one, I know I'm going to have date here, so I'm going to hide the label. I'm then going to get rid of these axes or the line graph. So I'm going to right click format, and then I'm going to do my lines, no grid lines. I know it looks like they go away. Please make sure you go into rows and columns and make sure you select none, because if not, it will populate on Tableau public and you'll still see the lines, and it'll bug you in that kind of piece. It would be interesting to look at a trend across the different quarters per year. So this is where I would probably bring in the analytics tab, and I would bring in, you could do a constant line, you then have to specify what it is, but I'm gonna bring in an average line. You could do it across the whole table. I think it may make sense to look across the pane here to see. So it actually looks like across 2021, a little bit higher, a little bit lower, a little bit higher, like, so maybe this is one where I change the ordering and I go here. So now I can look across quarter one, looks like it's my, I don't know, second best, then quarter three. So I think this is a cool thing to kind of look at. Again, it's up to you. I don't really mind. I wouldn't probably go another level because then things get a little dicey here. See, I think we can look at that other ways. And so I'm actually going to go in, I'm going to use something we did in the Excel work where I'm going to create a new sheet, and then I'm just going to do something like, I'm going to rename this. I'm going to do month PM, and I'm going to build a bar graph that, again, we could highlight in there if we wanted. So I'm going to find profit margin. Again, now I'm just going to double click it. Then I'm going to bring out, where is month? So order month ABC. I think you can get this if we use the normal date as well, but I like to kind of have the monthly names. I make sure they're kind of organized the right way. And then I'm going to right click, hide the field labels here, right click, let's format, let's go ahead and get rid of our grid line. So again, none, make sure rows and columns not on there. I will then maybe bring over profit margin to label it on this. And this is going to be ugly in here, but hopefully you'll see where I'm kind of going. So I'm going to bring it into label. I'm also going to bring profit margin onto color, just so it's maybe a little bit easier to see as we kind of go across this. And this, it's interesting where I may want to change the color scheme. So I'm going to format, let's just do edit colors. Let's change it to be maybe a different version of green, because I don't want that to get confused with my map later on. But then what I can do here is I can put that in the tooltip. So I'm going to go into the tooltip. I'll click here, increase. I'll do this, and then I'll do sheets. And then I want month profit margin. I'll do OK. Again, the hard part about this one is if you're over these, it's only going to show the first quarter, which is really, really nice. So it goes across, so you can look in these by month for each kind of quarter and where it's in kind of relation to. This one may actually be where I want to, I'm going to actually go back to, I'm careful with red-green diverging. I'll talk about this a little bit later on. One, because it looks like Christmas, and two, because there's some colorblind issues, but I think it may make sense here, where then you can kind of hover over all of these things and kind of see it. And then notice here, I can't hover over it, but like there's just a lot going on. So I'm going to clean that other graph up. Since I had the labels, I don't really need this. Right click, so I'm going to uncheck show headers. And then I think that will make this a little bit cleaner. So then we can break it down by each, for each one. I don't like that, notice here, I still have positive and it's red. So I'm actually going to go in and modify this again where I do this drop down. I'm going to do edit colors, and then I'm going to have the center be a custom one at 0. Right, that way. And again, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense here, but when you go over and you start getting more variability, I think it makes more sense to have it like that. And again, if you modify this thing to go across by a year, you're still in quarter one, so you're still going to get kind of the same thing. It's just how you want to look at it. It's up to you. All right, so I like that. We're kind of building lots of cool, interesting things. We are going to save. And then we're going to build, let's do a bar graph by subcategory, just because I want to see that maybe later on. So again, new sheet, and then I'll do rename bar by subcategory. And so I'll bring profit margin. I then will bring out subcategory. So I have them here. And then I'm going to start thinking about things. Number one, I'm always going to format, get rid of these stupid grid lines, go to rows, do none. And then I like to ask myself, like, is there any reason to have these organized in this particular way? And the answer is typically no, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide that because we already know it's my subcategory. I'm going to order it, right? So let's do largest to smallest or smallest to largest, kind of up to you. I kind of like this one here. And then again, I'm going to label it so I don't need that axis and it's easier for my viewer. So I'll do this onto label. And then when I had the filled map, I used this sort of color scheme, and I want to again be consistent. So I'm going to go into here, and then I'm going to again take profit margin. I'm going to drag it onto color. Right, and then I have kind of that same thing where they're kind of connected. And again, I don't need this anymore, so I'll uncheck it as we go through. It would be interesting to see the average again on here. So I'm again, go to Analytics tab. I will find the average, and I will do this. It starts off over on the left. We can modify this thing if we want it to look nicer. So I'm going to right click. First thing I'm going to do is format it. I'm going to make it maybe a dashed line, make it black. You could do other colors if you really wanted. Then I'm going to move it, oops, what do I do, the dash line. And then I'm going to move average over to the right. So hopefully I can click back on this. Nope, click on the line. Then I'm going to do alignment. I'm going to move it all the way to the right. And then I don't really want any shading or anything there, but I wanted to actually list that rather than me have to kind of hover over it. So that's a different option, where if we then right click and we do edit instead of format, it's like showing you like, okay, it's averaging, the label is just what it's actually averaging. So we're gonna do a custom one, and you could just do the value, right? And you could do okay, and that would make sense. I like to give them a little bit more value or a little bit more information. So I would do something like average profit margin equals, and then I say list the value. And if you do okay, what's going on here? Edit. Oh, I have the tooltip. It's not what I want. So let's go back. I'm gonna do. I'm gonna copy this, and then the label is gonna be a custom label. This, and then this is gonna be automatic. I'm sorry, I flipped it, and then it kind of lists it right there, which is really, really nice. There. Later on, I'm again gonna want this thing to be able to look by category or subcategory. Some people like to put category up in, so they'll find this and they're like, well, I kind of want category here so you can see across. And I completely understand that. That would be fine. I wouldn't do it this way because you want it by category and then subcategory. But I'm going to let it be a filter. And to do that a little bit easier than drag in and do that, you can do this drop down and then just do show filter, and it'll bring it over here, which is really, really nice. All right. Maybe we want to actually show the category in this in the tooltip. So you could bring category onto tooltip, and then you hover over it. I don't like the ordering of this, so I want the category and then subcategory. So I can actually go into the tooltip and move things around, right? I can do this, Control or Command X, all right, paste, and then I actually like that there's a little gap. I will do okay. Then it actually shows me what it's in there if I wanted to kind of learn a little bit more later on. So we're almost there. Let's save, and then I'm tempted to show one more thing. Let's do a quick scatter plot. We may or may not use it, but if we have two numeric factors, like profit margin is going to be the first one, so I'll double click that out. Let's say if I wanted to look and see if profit margin and maybe discount percentage was related, or number of items, or something like that. So two what we call numeric factors. I would find that numeric factor, and I'm looking for discount, which I'll just do discount. And I don't want the categorical, I want the numeric. So I bring it over and I drop it. It always starts like this, and you're like, what is going on here? And I'm hovering. I'll show you this. You can see that it's not formatted correctly. It's summing up here. So I've got to modify things up here. This is why we do it before usually, but I'll do measure, average, and then I'm going to do here, and then I need to do format. I do numbers, and then this is also a percentage, which will teach decimals. And then you got to figure out, what do you want each dot for? All right, and so you could go to analysis, uncheck measures, but I don't like to do that simply because you don't know why you're doing it. So what do I want a dot for? If you wanted for every single order, you could just do like unique order ID or something like that. If you wanted it for every client, you could do something like that. I think it makes the most sense to have a dot for each product name. So that is what I'm going to drag down here and put on detail. So now I can hover over and I can see the product name. Since I have category and subcategory on the other pieces, I probably am going to drag that as well. And so I would probably bring category to tooltip. Looks like nothing happens, but I promise that it will. But now you can look at product name, its category, its subcategory, and then its average discount and average profit margin. I like a little bit of spacing in here, so I'll click on the tooltip. I would do this. I would honestly move the discount down underneath it and do OK. And then I'm going to do a little bit of formatting. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to format, I'm going to get rid of those grid lines again. All right, so those are gone. And then since I had category versus subcategory before, it would be interesting to see a line of best fit through these based upon those pieces. So I can actually start by taking category over to color. All right, so now I get different colors. I like to differentiate in multiple ways. I'm also going to do category by shape. And then I'm going to do analytics, and I'm going to bring over this trend line. And so I'm going to drag that. I'm going to start with linear. And now we can kind of see if there's a different relationship between the different categories, between discount and profit margin. And guess what? As discount percent goes up, profit margin goes down, which should make a whole lot of sense. A little bit of best practice here. Let's go ahead and round this to 0 decimals. So if I right click, I'm going to first off, what do I want to do? Let's do edit axis. And then it can do automatic. We can do tick marks where we can kind of indicate how we want it. We may have to round actually within it. So I'm going to do here, format, and then numbers. I'm just going to take this down to 0. I'm going to right click here and do, oh, does format work? It may work in here too. So then I can do percentage, 0 decimals. So that's a little bit kind of cleaner. And then, yeah, I kind of like those pieces. I don't know that I love the colors. If you don't like the colors, you could go in, double click, and select your own. So like furniture, maybe I want that as brown. Office supplies, I want that as maybe green. Technology, I want as purple. I don't know why I would want that. Maybe gray, and do apply, do OK. Those all blend together. Those are terrible. So maybe, and there's lots of different ones. So maybe I'll do Tableau Classic 20. Let's do furniture. I like to keep blue as kind of the color theme. So maybe I'll do red with furniture, orange with office supplies, and let's do maybe office supplies and then technology. Something like that. Let's see what this looks like. It looks a little bit better. I think my light blue, and I'm color deficient, which we'll talk about later in the term, which is probably causing a little issues. You may think it looks fantastic. I don't love the neon there. So maybe something like this. I think that'll be good enough. Do you all see? And let's move the order here. I think if I drag this down, let's see, technology maybe up top. That nature. So that looks a little bit clearer so I can kind of see the colors. All right, so I will do rename, and I will do discount versus PM scatter, something of that nature. If you don't like the different colors, I'm trying not to go too deep into this. If we're trying to be consistent, if you don't like the colors based upon category, you again could bring profit margin on the color and it should replace it. I think maybe that's going to be a little bit easier as we kind of see the different ones. Now, if you like the other one, that's perfectly fine, but it's a little bit more consistent, and we'll be able to modify this a little bit more with our filters. So, I think that's good overview. Do I want to add, we could do something where we add like the count of orders in here. Let me think, because I may want to see each. So I'm going to try and do, I'm going to hold control for category. I'll bring it to text. That's not what I want. Let me pull category into text as well. It wants to do it as something separate. Let me try here. This, and then I'm going to do measure. I want to change it to count. Yeah, and then I'm going to flip it. And then I'm going to make this thing a little bit bigger. Let's see. Let's do fit the width. And then, I don't know why, it doesn't want to auto fit these. Got to be careful with your cursor. I'm going to modify this. I'm going to edit what we call the alias. Let's go with number of, I should put orders, edit alias. All right, so I like that we can see kind of the count here across these pieces. So I'm going to save. And then let's put all, or at least some of this information together. Right, so on a dashboard, so now the second one over here, we're going to build something out like an overview. All right, it always starts kind of ugly. The size is kind of hidden, and you're going to have to play around with this. You'll see here a little bit later, but we'll do instead of range, you could try automatic. I haven't had a whole lot of success with this, but maybe let's try it. And if we need to modify it, we can. So the first thing I'm going to do is you should see all of your sheets over here. I'm going to bring out the overview and put it. So right now it's on this tiled status, so it's going to fill the whole thing. We'll be kind of careful, so I'm going to hide the title, something of this nature. I'm going to put a dashboard title, so I'm going to check it. And then I'm going to name this something interesting or useful. So I'm going to take our assignment title. I'm going to double click in here, paste. Let's see, can I paste just the values? I may have to modify this. And I'm going to put profit margin overview. And I'll probably center this. Let's go ahead and make this, I don't know, 20. Do apply, do okay. So it looks a little bit nicer. And I may have to kind of tweak and modify this again. Then what I'm going to do is, what other visual do I want? I'll probably start off with a filled map, which I'll put maybe up here. I'm going to undo because I don't want the orders underneath it. I'm going to put filled map. And then I may have to go, let's go here. I want you to be dragged right underneath this. Let's click here, drag it up, and replace. Interesting. I'm not sure why it wants to do that. So I go above. So I like the filled map. I'm going to put a more descriptive title. So I'll do profit margin by state, and I'll do apply, okay. And then we can choose which one we want. I would probably do, which way do we want to think about it? Let's start with, let's definitely do the line graph. So let's put that on the bottom. And then we got to figure out, do I want this bar graph that goes with it? Or do I want a four-corner one? This is probably a lot. This should probably be on 2 dashboards, but let's keep it on here for now and go from there. So now let's start and kind of modify this so it has what we want. So I'm going to get the legends where I think they should be. So I'm going to drag this. I'm going to put it right underneath. We are going to kind of have to size things a little bit, make sure they're kind of okay. This thing looks a little bit large, so maybe I'm going to push it up. And notice that it's going to start overcutting. So I want this thing to fit this view. So a lot of times you can click here, do this drop down, and you can do fit, and then fit the entire view. Then if you start getting too squished, it's just going to squish everything. And so we may just need to be a little bit careful, and we may go back and resize some of this stuff. But we're just going to be cautious about like what we think looks best. So I want to go back to this visual. A quick way to do that is to click, and you'll see this go to sheet. And then I'm just going to double click inside of this. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to right click and I'm going to format. And then the text within it, I'm going to make this, maybe let's do 18. See what that kind of looks like. Right click, format, font, 18, enter. Let's do 16. And then right click, format, 16, right click, format, this, 16. So a lot of that kind of back end work, I spend a lot of time kind of modifying. And again, I'll do fit, entire view, so most of the time it can fit, be nice there. Okay, so I have my legend there. I'll bring my category kind of shapes. Again, we want to resize so that things are pretty consistent. And most of the time it's going to do this in tiled mode, which is really, really nice. I'm already kind of noticing that these are kind of overlapping, so why not go and maybe round to the nearest decimal? So I'll do the drop down here, and then we'll go to the text, drop down. I will then do format, and I will do the number, percentage. Let's do 0. Then I come back. It looks a little bit cleaner, a little bit nicer as you go across. For this one, I think it makes okay sense. I'll do let's do profit margin over time, and I'll just say over time. And I'll do apply, I'll do okay. This is bar graph by subcategory. That doesn't tell me anything, so I'm going to do, let's simplify here. Let's do by subcategory. I'm going to center it. All right, I'm then going to do this one as just over time, apply, let's center, apply, okay. And then I'll do by state, apply, center, apply, okay. This, I'll do versus discount. And I'll do apply, I'll do okay. Oops. Something of that nature. Furniture. So we don't need this color anymore because it's not actually working on that. So I'll delete that. Notice that I have the same filter, but it works on different visuals right now. There's ways to connect them. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to delete this one. And then I'm going to bring maybe this filter to, where do we want to put it so someone can kind of play around with it. I'm going to show you one other little trick here. Let's do vertical container, right? And so I'm going to do this. I'm probably throwing a lot at you all. I'm going to put it maybe here, and it's going to be ugly, but then I'm going to drag that filter into this. And I'm going to bring one more filter over, which I didn't add any other ones. Let's do the estate and time. So I need that somewhere on the maps or on one of the visuals. So I'm going to put it on the map. So I'm going to find, I'm going to do my order date. I'm going to drag it to filter, and we're just going to do years. We'll do next, and we'll do all, apply, okay. I'm going to do the same thing with state, even though that may not make a whole lot of sense. So where are you? Find state. Up to here, and then we'll do them all. So we'll do apply, and we'll do okay. And then I'll go back to the dashboard, and I then need to tell it to come and pull those filters out. So I'm going to do a drop down. I'm going to do filters. I'm also going to bring out state, and then notice that it put it up here. I'm going to then do the drop down, filters, year of order. And this isn't going to look very good, so I'm going to have to kind of size so I can kind of see everything. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this. I'm going to try and move it over to the right. wonder if I can make this a horizontal container. Let's cheat a little bit. Let's do horizontal, and then I'm going to take this filter, if it's going to let me, kind of put that in here, and then on this right there, and then my last filter is going to be here. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change these. I'm going to do this drop down, and I'm going to do, why is it not letting me choose the title? So there's this one. Let's make it a little wider. Drop down. There we go. So I'm going to do, let's do single value drop downs for now. So single value. And this one I'm going to do here. Single value. And I always wanted to start with all. And then I'm going to do this drop. And then I'm going to do single value. I'm going to click on this container and do the drop down, and I'm going to distribute contents evenly so it has them all across. So then I have my filters that right now, again, are only using the map. But if I click them and I do apply to worksheets, and I'm going to do all using this data source, then when I select here, it updates all of them, which is fantastic, right? So then it's the definition of exploratory. I'm going to do the same thing. Apply to worksheets, all using this data source. Apply to worksheets, number one should be all. Do the drop down. Where are you? Here, and then I will do apply to worksheets, all using this data source. And you always want to check it and make sure that it kind of works. Just all four visuals adjust, but always, always, always on an exploratory dashboard, make sure that they're all here, right? They're all set to all. And so I'm going to go ahead, I've built a lot, and I'm going to do save. Little things like you want to guide the viewer on kind of how to use a possible dashboard. And so I wish I would have spent maybe a little more time on this, but I don't want to push you too far early because I got to have other things to show you. But there's ways to like add information and stuff of that nature, which we'll do in the future. For now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to floating, and then I'm going to find what we call a text box. So find, I'm going to do text. I'm going to drag it over top, and I'm just going to have like basic instructions, like hover over each visual to learn more. All right, and I'll do okay. All right, and then it starts, and sometimes it kind of fits and works. Sometimes you have to kind of go through and resize. I'm going to make sure that you can't miss this. So I'm going to bold this, and then I'm going to make it red, something like that. And then maybe, honestly, I'm going to make it 10. That kind of piece. And there's so much more you can do. Some of you all have seen it. Some little things. Make sure you, again, don't have kind of like these dots kind of broken down. I don't know why, but it doesn't want to kind of expand it across. But make sure they match up. So each of these kind of line up. If you wanted to play around and really kind of modify things, I don't know why, but this dashboard title is kind of the biggest thing. You can also go to dashboard and you can start formatting things. But I like to kind of throw like maybe a light background across them. You can then, again, if you want, right click, you can format visuals from here where maybe you have some shading and you kind of match them so it looks a little bit cleaner. You just have to remember which color you use all the time. So I think this may look a little bit nicer. So I'll do format, fill, light gray, and then I may do something, I could do the same thing here, format, header, I think it's this one, and then the panes, fill, worksheet, something like that. That's a little harder because it does that white, so maybe you differentiate this one a little bit different. Maybe this one you do like black, although that's not what we want clearly. Let's go back. Come on. We do none. Yeah, that's because I'm clicked in it. Yeah, I don't want to kind of go too deep into that. But if you want to kind of go through, you could format the title and then make your shading like something like this, and then double click in and do a white text, apply, okay. So it looks maybe a little bit cleaner here, and we change our shading. I gotta be careful because again, I'm color deficient. So being maybe a little bit more consistent there. And just again, small little things to make it look nicer. And again, I'm teaching you a lot. I'm trying to show you the different things. You don't have to do all these pieces. I just like to kind of show those kind of basics. We kind of see. That way it looks relatively nice. And so I'm going to rename this instructor dash, so you kind of know. Great, and then I think we're good here. Maybe if you wanted to format the title. The problem is when you start doing the dashboard, be careful. That's the whole dashboard, but maybe we do something like this, and then we double click in. Maybe make this 30. And then we make it again, Control A, and we do white, we do apply, okay. So how you're going to do it. So now like this is complete. Again, we could do a lot more. If you're a skilled user, please go through and look at it and play around with it if you want. Like there's so many little things, like we could go in and make this bold or black, or make sure none of these are cut off. If they are, you're going to have to kind of fit. But what we're going to do is, and this is kind of a moment of truth, let's do a story. Right, and so instead of story 1, first thing we want to do is we're going to rename this e-commerce profitability analysis, because when you save this online, honestly it looks bad because it says story 1. And so for my first caption, this is going to be my story. So this would be overview of profit margin, exploratory. And I'm going to make sure I don't have any typos there. What I do, we're always going to be careful. If you have Grammarly, it'll catch that. But then it has each of these, but then I want to bring in the dashboard. And so hopefully it fits in. If you want to, it is like stock on this size. If little things like that start to happen, see, because it's going to try and resize, I would honestly go ahead and kind of like play around, make it a little bit taller. It's okay to kind of have that piece as long as everything looks nice. And so we're going to again file, save, and then we're going to do this is just, whoops, I don't know what I just did. Undo. So I'm going to rename this. I don't know, we could probably just leave it as a story for now. So what you're going to do is, you don't have to do anything else with this, but you're then going to go and you're going to put 2 new story points. The first one is going to be, right, I'm going to cheat, I'm going to copy, I'm going to paste, and then this is what you're going to do. You're going to build another dashboard similar to that. Then you're going to do what we call overview of, let's do explanatory. So that same, this is where it's only going to be one dashboard or one visual. So if I bring over the assignment again here, what you're going to do is you're going to build a design, right? Between our minimum of 3 visuals, 2 filters. And again, yours is going to be average profit per item, average profit per order, average cost per item, average cost per order. You can break it down the same way I do. You can look at other things, kind of up to you. But again, build one dashboard of that, and you're going to pull it into the story point. Then you're going to have an explanatory dashboard. That's max 2 visuals, no filters. I don't want a ton of functionality in that piece. I want you to go through, and it's more like a key insight that you see. So what I would do is, I don't know, you're going to find something interesting. I would do something where I'm going to create a dashboard. I would make this like explanatory, and then fit it again. Let's do automatic. It seemed like it worked. And then you're going to find whatever one that you want. And so I don't want to modify this one, so I'm going to duplicate it. But then if I wanted something interesting to show people, I would pull that explanatory dashboard. I would bring in Whoops, let's go back to tiled. Month, PM. And then what's important of it, and make it more, I don't know, useful or interesting. You don't have to show me all of these months. You could go into here and I don't know, I would probably have these ordered. I would probably do also, I would change my profit margin coloring. So I would do, I don't want to mess with it anywhere else. Maybe I then would do, I don't know, I could do category. No, I could do the month order where I only have like one or two, like September, August, December are our highest or something like that. You think. So one way you could do that is if you wanted, then I would have maybe instead of color there, I would pull month. Where are you? Order month. I would drag that to color. And then instead of the rainbow, which we always want to avoid, we're going to edit colors. And what I'll do is I see September, August, December. So December, September, August. I maybe have these be green. And then everything else. All right, so I'm just holding control there. I didn't do apply. I do okay. That's, well, it should be gray. Where then you could highlight on your explanatory dashboard the key highest months, which this could be one where then you want a text box to come over here. You do okay, and then you just size it so it's key. And now you could have two visuals where you bring it, then on your story point, you bring that explanatory dashboard into here on that piece. So that's what I'm looking for. When you save it, what you're going to do is make sure you're looking at this one. All right, so then you're going to first off file, save, and then you're going to do file, save to Tableau public as. You're going to log in. I'll save you that nightmare. All right, so once you log in and you start to save, it should automatically kind of set it up. It's going through. We did a lot of kind of work here. All right, so it's going to go. Mine's opening on a different screen. All right, so the only thing I should be able to see is that, and again, you're on the first story point. And then how I'm going to grade it is I'll go here. If it looks a little smaller on your screen, that's okay. I can kind of zoom in. All right, so see like this kind of bent down, which is fine. And so I would want to be able to see that, then your exploratory, then your explanatory. And again, this is hideous. Yours ought to look a lot better than that. All right. I hope this was useful. And then what you're going to do before I kind of let you go, share the link and make sure it works. So you're going to click on the share button. You're going to take the link here. You're going to copy it. You're going to paste it into that Excel box, save it, and then submit that to D2L. All right, so good luck, and I look forward to seeing what you can come up with.